My 24M, parents 49F, 52M have forbidden broccoli for the time being. How do I navigate this? First of all, I recognize that this may seem quite sad coming from an adult male, 24 years old, but please consider my perspective. Both my younger siblings, 22 years old, female, 21 years old, male, and I continue to live with our mother, 49 years old, and father, 52 years old. The COVID-19 pandemic contributed to this situation. My lack of a social life during my childhood and teenage years also played a significant role. Factors related to our ethnicity and socioeconomic status have influenced our circumstances as well. Similar difficulties faced by my mother's mother when she was our age in the 1990s added to the issues. My parents even used most of the earnings I made from my first two jobs to improve their credit score after I resigned a year ago, and I have been struggling ever since. I feel that my parents have let me down in various ways, but that does not excuse my lack of effort. I have come to the realization that nothing will change while I am living under their roof, so I am actively working on establishing a career to secure a source of income that will allow me to eventually move out of the house. My two younger siblings share the same goals. My two older sisters, let's refer to them as Kate and Nina, 28 years old, had to endure comparable challenges. I have sought their advice regarding this situation. They frequently criticize Kate behind her back for believing she is superior to us because they spent years belittling her during her childhood. Our father particularly goes on rants about how Kate represents a lack of support among Black individuals in America. My second eldest sister is labeled selfish because they failed to teach her basic respect and life skills when she was a child, forcing her to learn these things independently, which has led her towards becoming a stereotype. This is particularly distressing for our father. As for me, I am frequently told I do not listen, am too prideful, and do not respect anyone because they never paid attention to or respected me as a child. In hindsight, whenever I became combative in response to their blatant disregard for me, our father would sit me down and explain that other Black men do not get second chances, insisting that I should listen to understand rather than to respond, which is exactly what they have done to me repeatedly. My younger brother is deemed immature because they refuse to teach the youngest how to mature instead of treating him like a child. Sometimes he enjoys it, and sometimes he greatly enjoys playing house with our mother. Occasionally, I overhear him complaining to my younger sister, who, by the way, is labeled lazy, about how our parents do not allow him to do anything and how he feels disrespected. While I do not particularly like him, I now understand that it is due to how they have pitted us against each other in a way I still cannot put into words. I find myself liking him more when I have some distance from him. On a different note, I made significant changes to my diet last year. I have been eating healthily. They strongly dislike this. To put it simply, watching me eat this way makes my parents and my two unhealthy siblings feel guilty, and they often complain about how I eat better, especially our father. That is until I mistakenly trusted them with medical information, which ended up with them essentially confining me to the house and pressuring me to consume unhealthy junk to cure a minor low blood pressure fluctuation. We are social creatures. While I have moved past the pressure now, in those moments, I have given in on multiple occasions because without a social life, external input, and surrounded by toxicity, what other options do I have? They finally have an excuse to claim that eating healthily and exercising are detrimental to my well-being, and they wholeheartedly embraced this. Despite having resolved my low blood pressure by simply eating more food, they still scramble to find problems. First, they claimed I was eating too many carrots, leading to my hands becoming orange, and they forbade carrots for a month. I complied like a coward until I decided that if my hands really were orange, enough time had passed, and I bought them again. They criticized me, but ultimately relented. I genuinely don't remember the details. I walk every day, which also disturbs them. Confined at home, I attempt to negotiate with them, but it becomes clear that I can never please them, so I simply stop listening. I typically walk for an hour. They insist that is excessive and will harm me, suggesting I can only walk for 30 minutes every 2 days. I choose instead to take 2-hour walks and pace around the house. This frustrates my father to no end, but ultimately he gives up. I love you. I would gladly die for you with a smile on my face, but in this regard, you can eat grass and take 3-hour walks. I'm finished. I'm done helping you. Now, I take 2-hour walks every day just to defy them. Recently, they have complained about an odor, describing it as smelling like a sinus infection. Initially, they suggested I eliminate beans, then garlic and herb salt-free spices, followed by edamame, and then broccoli. The problem is that the smell appears and disappears randomly, with seemingly no connection to what I eat. It comes and goes without regard for whether or not I consume beans or broccoli. They have targeted beans for a long time, but they have now backtracked and no longer insist it is the beans causing the issue. My mother came into my room and essentially issued an ultimatum: eliminate spices, edamame, and broccoli for 10 days to determine if the odor dissipates. I informed her that if there truly was an odor and this was not some game, it would be due to the spices, and I would be willing to eliminate them. She could not accept this response, and we went back and forth for half an hour until she ultimately gave up but seemed to assume I had agreed to cut out broccoli. I never explicitly agreed to that. I have been consulting Kate and Nina for guidance on how to handle the persistent disrespect while living under their roof. They both advise me to disregard them and to dismiss the guilt tripping. However, Kate essentially tells me, Nina and our younger brother resist and do not allow them to control them, but you let them overstep your boundaries too frequently, recommending that I stop trying to appease them and their rules, stating that they will then cease their behavior. Nina, on the other hand, explains, unfortunately, you will have to endure it until you can move out. It is unreasonable, but that is the reality. Our younger brother may push back, but he gets into a lot more trouble than you do. Just tolerate it, and they will pay less attention to you, then you can figure things out from there. Regarding my consumption of broccoli, Kate says to disregard them and eat it anyway. Nina advises me to keep my head down and comply, or it will only become worse for me. I am concerned that if I comply with their demands, my parents will interpret it as permission to continue disrespecting my boundaries, especially if they scream, shout, and shame me enough. I am seriously contemplating eating broccoli simply out of spite, but I have found that defying them has not gone well for me on multiple occasions. Would I be wrong for doing this? Would it be wise? Would this lead them to continue disregarding my boundaries? Story 2. My 20M, girlfriend, 20F, and I broke up after 6 years. I'm completely distraught and feel so empty without her. Hello, everyone. As you can infer from the title, my girlfriend and I have been in a relationship since middle school. We attended high school together and endured a year and a half of long distance. She chose to attend a university that requires a flight to reach from mine on opposite sides of the East Coast, which is when our difficulties truly began. I recall having a significant argument during our senior year of high school about her university choice. I wanted her to remain nearby, but due to her challenging family situation, she wished to move as far away as possible. At this point, we still had prom, graduation parties, and vacations ahead of us. The decision was mine to make. She wanted to maintain our relationship despite the distance, saying it was entirely up to me whether we continued together. Ultimately, I chose to stay with her. I wanted to share our last summer before college together, which we did, and had an amazing time. This is when I developed an almost unhealthy obsession with her and a desire to control every aspect of her life. When college began, our first year of long distance was quite successful. I visited her each month, we had FaceTime calls every night, and handled the challenging situation as well as we could. The summer following our freshman year was also wonderful. We did argue from time to time, typically about the same issues: my jealousy over her friendships or my attempts to control her social interactions. With every argument, we would quickly make up and move forward. The summer was filled with fun and relaxation. The first semester of our sophomore year marked a significant decline in our relationship. We found ourselves in conflict almost weekly, often making each other cry, and more importantly, going to bed angry. The disputes revolved around our aspirations after college, with me again attempting to dictate her choices. I should mention that we are an interracial couple who grew up in very different cultural backgrounds. Her breaking point this semester occurred when her friend group became acquainted with a guy from their classes Her friends had similar or identical majors. Perhaps due to my upbringing, I became extremely envious of this individual. I was cruel to her for having a friend. She consistently communicated when they were studying together or hanging out as a group or one-on-one. I had no valid reason to distrust her. Our families were aware of how devastating infidelity can be, so neither of us would ever consider such an act. What crushed her the most and ultimately led to our breakup last semester was my inability to trust her when she asserted that he was merely a friend. I attempted to express that I trusted her, but not the guy. She insisted that after dating for so long, I should believe her when she said she would cease any friendship with him immediately if he made any advances. This individual had done nothing to justify my jealousy or doubts, but my feelings of anger and envy overwhelmed me, causing me to lash out at my girlfriend for even interacting with him. Consequently, she broke up with me for about a day last semester. I was heartbroken, but she called me the following day in tears, admitting that she realized her mistake. I yearned for her to return so much that I accepted her apology, and we reconciled. However, both of our trust in one another was significantly compromised. We dedicated our entire winter break to rebuilding that trust, and we succeeded, but something felt different this time. I only wanted to be with her. I never spent time with friends, family, or anyone else. Whenever we were both available, I would be at her house. At this point, I was so invested in her that she noticed I became irritable if we didn't spend time together, so she adjusted her work hours to maximize our time together. She was my entire world, but she had a job, wonderful friends, and was immersed in a new experience in a different region of the country. Then she left for this semester, and it took less than 2 weeks for me to explode at her again for hanging out with this guy, whom I had no legitimate reason to distrust, and whom my girlfriend of 6 years would absolutely not allow anything inappropriate to happen with. I apologized, but then the following day, I lost my temper once more. She declared that my apology was merely an empty promise, and that I couldn't even make it through our nightly FaceTime call without being toxic again. This was her breaking point. She stressed that I needed to discover myself outside of her, that I had to love myself before I could love her, and that she was weary of having her character questioned due to my insecurities. It is worth noting that I have female friends here at university whom she has never objected to. We ended things on amicable terms. She expressed how much she still loves me but wants me to improve for my own sake. She clarified that this was not a final farewell, but rather more of a see you later. That was on Wednesday night, and apart from my desperate pleas for her to take me back for one day, we have been in no contact since. I spoke with her family to express my gratitude, and they informed me that she was extremely disappointed that it had reached this stage and that she genuinely wants me to better myself. I recognize that I made a mistake. I would do anything to reverse the consequences of my insecurities and jealousy on our relationship. My question to all of you is, how can I go about repairing the damage I have caused? How long should I wait before attempting to reconnect? The most distressing aspect of this situation is that I was scheduled to visit her just 2 weeks after our breakup. She had purchased plane tickets for me, which I will reimburse her for. Additionally, this guy she met this year is present to comfort her. I have known her for 8 years, and we have been together for 6. I miss her deeply. She truly is everything I know. I am prepared to do anything and everything to win her back. Simultaneously, I do not want her to feel as though she is waiting on me. The last thing I desire is for her to feel constrained by me. I want her to embrace her own happiness without me hindering her. I am eager to reconcile, but this is a delicate situation. I am uncertain how I will feel in the upcoming weeks. I believe that if this is meant to be, we will eventually find our way back to one another. I hope that it is. I had intended to propose to her within the next 2 years. I genuinely feel as though I have lost my future wife, as if a part of my heart is gone and may never return. Should I express my apologies to her, or should I wait for her to contact me? I feel utterly lost right now. I have struggled to eat properly or concentrate on my studies because everything reminds me of her. I have cried every day since. I miss her more than anything and love her beyond what words can convey. Was this a situation of if you love someone, you have to let them go? If you have read this far, thank you for your time, and I would greatly appreciate your advice. Summary: my girlfriend ended our relationship after 6 years, and I feel that it is largely my fault. I attempted to control her, which destroyed her trust in me. I miss her immensely and want to be a better person for her. I want to reach out and convey this to her. How can I repair the relationship I damaged? How long should I wait until she is ready to date me again? Story 3. She F18 said she hasn't loved me M20 because she's not attracted to me. Opinions/advice. TL doctor at end of post. This girl I have known online for more than a year and a half informed me she has not loved me since she began speaking to another guy, male, 18, because she is not attracted to me. To provide additional context, we recently dated after being friends for several months, but we quickly broke up due to personal reasons. We stayed friends and continued to treat each other as we did while we were together. After our breakup, she communicated with another guy and has maintained contact with both of us since then. I feel that her recent behavior towards me stems from her being anxious about her feelings for him. She wishes to date him, but states it may not work out. Prior to confessing this to me, she had expressed her love for me multiple times on her own. Last night, I asked her if she loved me, and she replied with, "I don't know," like not really. When I questioned how she could have claimed to love me before but now say not really, she said, "Because it's just words." She followed that by stating, "Yeah, I loved you in the past." I inquired when she ceased loving me, and she responded, "When I started talking more to the other guy." After that point, details of our conversation began to get confusing. Later on, she admitted she is not attracted to me in general, at first, which could have suggested she does not feel romantically inclined towards me at the moment, but she concluded the entire conversation by stating, "I don't like how you look, and I'm not attracted to you." As the conversation became tangled, we called each other, and I asked if she had lied about finding my face attractive. I was confused, because I did not consider her referring to our relationship, so I possibly brought these next confessions upon myself. She responded verbatim, "Well, it wasn't like lying. Like, I was just trying to not be mean or make you feel bad. I was just trying to be nice." I asked her why she liked me and wanted to date me in the first place, and she replied, "Well, I guess because you were the only person that talked to me, kind of." I expressed a similar sentiment regarding her reasoning. I then asked her what she thought of my penis, intimacy, and personal image sharing were part of our relationship during and after dating, and she answered, I like it." Before concluding the conversation, I still did not grasp her meaning when discussing being attracted to me. I asked, "Don't you like my penis?" She replied, "Yeah, but that's like nothing. Why does it matter if you have a nice penis if you're not attractive to me?" I pointed out that we could still have intimacy as we did before, but she replied, "I don't even want to engage in sexual activities with you." At the time, this was very perplexing for me as I had not yet realized her point, unfortunately. I mentioned that she had wanted me to call her last week to have phone sex, but she explained her reasoning by saying, "Because I was feeling horny and bored." She responded to my next inquiries about intimacy with, "I'm saying I don't like you. If I don't like you, obviously, I don't want to be sexual with you." I asked, "So why did we continue doing it when you didn't like me?" She said, "Because I liked your personality." It was at this point the conversation ended with her reaffirming she doesn't like how I look. Admittedly, due to my own confusion, this information hurt me overnight. Before I began summarizing the events for this post, I remained baffled by her statements. Thankfully, upon reflection, I achieved a better understanding of what she meant. In my opinion, I believe she has been very anxious and uncertain concerning our current relationship. She seems unsure whether to continue it with me due to her feelings for this other guy. Of course, her declaration that she does not love me or find me attractive both romantically and in appearance should be a sufficient indication that she does not wish to maintain a relationship with me right now. However, this represents a sudden change for us, as just a few days ago, she was expressing her love for me, and we were intimate. Therefore, once more, I believe she is confused. I am willing to resolve matters with her at a later time if she desires, as I still love her as I have since we began communicating. In her defense, she is a very mentally overwhelmed individual. She grapples with anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, depression, self-consciousness, and various phobias. I am not certain of their nature, but they clearly overwhelm her. She attends therapy, although her anxiety leads her to have mixed feelings about attending each session. She aspires to pursue an academic career in college, with dreams of becoming a teacher for children. She wishes to marry and start a family with children when she is older. However, based on my personal experiences with her, I understand she is simply a girl who wants to savor her youth right now with the things that comfort her most. Thus, I support her desire to date another guy despite our own complicated relationship. I care about her as a person, just as I would for anyone else close to me. I want her to be happy, although I still wish for us to be a part of each other's lives, getting along as we always have. Admittedly, if she does not want to commit to one person, I would like to try to resolve things with her towards another relationship. This is something I communicated to her during our conversation, but she declined the idea of dating again. When I asked if things do not work out for her and him, and if we could explore how things are between us at that point, she said, "Sure. I guess, if I ever start liking you again. I don't know." While writing this section, she texted me saying, "I just don't like you. I don't know why that's so hard for you to understand," after I had discussed something with her. So for now, it remains uncertain how she feels about me. She may be confused about our relationship, as I indicated, or she may vaguely communicate that she does not like me at all and wishes to have nothing to do with me. I will provide an update if I ever ascertain how she genuinely feels about us. I have been inquiring about this for the past week, when her unusual behavior towards me began. She did not convey her current emotions until last night, as of the time of writing. So hopefully that provided sufficient context. I thought what I wrote was essential concerning seeking opinions and advice on this matter. I would appreciate thoughts based on my personal opinions, which essentially are that I do not want to give up on her because I love her, even though she is emotionally confused about us. However, if you leave a comment suggesting I should take a different approach, I'm open to that. Summary: girl, female, 18, has complicated feelings about me, male, 20, and our relationship due to her interest in another guy, male, 18. I still love her, but she currently does not love me. She struggles with anxiety, which may be contributing to her sudden immature behavior towards me. I seek opinions or advice on the situation, separately regarding the individual / both of us and / or the relationship. Story 4. My NB29 boyfriend, M29, means well but doesn't take my feelings seriously. How do I move forward? We've been dating for 6 months now, but we met about a year ago. I liked him but initially rejected his advances for a while because I haven't had a good history with cisgender men and was attempting to break that pattern. We began dating after he demonstrated himself to be a very kind, empathetic, and caring individual among our mutual friends. He was trusted with a lot of sensitive information, and I ultimately opened up to him about my gender identity, past trauma, and ongoing mental health issues. I explained that if we were to date, he needed to understand that while I make a concerted effort to communicate and minimize the impact of these issues on others, being close to me in that way would likely mean he would witness more of my struggles than most people do, and I recognize that can be challenging. He responded in a way that was emotionally mature and empathetic, assuring me that he would handle it well. So, I decided to take the plunge, and we started dating. He initially started off very strong. He was learning about non-binary identities and trying to understand the best way to discuss it with people in his life. We shared special and intimate dates that weren't extravagant but felt very personal. He opened up much more, and his friends are also wonderful and empathetic individuals who have been so kind to me. However, over time, he regressed. He has developed a more judgmental attitude and mean streak toward others, particularly individuals who might be seen as awkward or outside the norm. As someone who is autistic and a bit punk, I appreciate when people are unique in that way. I told him it hurt my feelings because it makes me question what he genuinely thinks of me if that is how he views people like me. He interpreted this as me starting an argument and became quite upset with me for several days before recognizing that I was right and that he was projecting insecurities from a past relationship. He is still somewhat judgmental, but tends to keep those opinions to himself. His patience for my mental health struggles has diminished, which I could empathize with more if I were acting out, but I genuinely do not believe that I am. I haven't engaged in name-calling or pushed any buttons most recently. He told me he disliked this complaining and irritable attitude I had developed because I expressed frustration that he wasn't listening to me when I was on the verge of a panic attack and was doing the opposite of what I had requested. My words were neutral, there was no swearing or name-calling. I simply conveyed that he was not being helpful and wasn't listening in an exasperated tone. He has also adopted a tendency to suggest that the solutions to my challenges are overly simplistic, without considering the access issues I face when seeking necessary services. It's all very, "Oh, you have ADHD. Have you considered using a planner?" type advice, and he becomes upset when I explain that it isn't that simple. For instance, you spend money on your hobbies but cannot find funds to visit a dentist for your broken crown. Despite his being informed that there are no local NHS dentists accepting new patients and that a private dentist would genuinely cost me nearly 6 months of wages, it makes me feel like he doesn't regard my problems as real at all. He also misgenders me frequently now, and when I inquire why, he simplifies it to saying he is only truly attracted to women, and since I have a female body, it's challenging for him to see past that. This is probably the most concerning issue. His friends have also expressed their displeasure with this behavior. I'm visibly androgynous and primarily masculine presenting. I just haven't undergone any medical interventions due to access issues, but he has previously dated trans women without any problems regarding correct gendering. There have been no prior signs of transmasculine chaser behavior. I am beginning to feel that he perceives me as being overly critical of him, and I understand that isn't my intention. There are many wonderful things about him. He can be incredibly selfless and funny, and he can understand matters like this because he did so easily at the beginning. It's not just me who holds this view. We work in the same industry, and everyone has a high regard for him and his kindness and dependability. He's not laddish or chauvinistic and is unusually trustworthy. However, the areas where he is regressing are significant deal breakers for me. These reactions seem to be spontaneous knee-jerk responses, and he usually acknowledges and takes responsibility for his mistakes independently afterward. I've told him that it makes me feel like my feelings are being minimized and that my struggles are not being taken seriously, which he accepts and acknowledges. Yet, he will often appear to be walking on eggshells around me for some time afterward, stating that he is unsure what might trigger me next, even though, in my opinion, it's quite straightforward. Be empathetic when I am experiencing a panic attack instead of labeling me as ill-tempered. Use the correct pronouns for me, and refrain from judging others harshly for harmlessly expressing themselves. He has acknowledged that much of this is due to his discomfort with vulnerability. The closer we become, the more walls he seems to build. When I asked him what was causing this avoidance, thinking it might stem from a past negative experience or fear we could address together, he simply said he dislikes it without any concrete reason and has no strategy for improvement. He is unsure why he feels this way, even though he feels better after allowing himself to be vulnerable. I have previously encouraged and supported his vulnerability and reaffirmed that it was his vulnerable side that I fell in love with. I am unsure how to proceed. I trust and believe him when he says he wants to improve, but he isn't taking any real steps toward that. I recognize that change won't simply happen spontaneously, and I realize that I cannot continue to tolerate this behavior, but I don't know if I should end the relationship now or if there is a way I could, or should, meaningfully support him in this process. In summary, my boyfriend initially started out as kind and empathetic, and this perception of him is independently verified. However, over the past 6 months, he has become more emotionally closed off, resulting in very hurtful, invalidating, and minimizing reactions to my negative emotions. He has repeatedly and independently acknowledged that this is wrong and that it stems from his avoidance of vulnerability, but he does not understand its origin and has no plan to address or work on it. I am at a loss for what further actions I could or should take because I cannot continue with this behavior in the long term, but he has no strategy to tackle the underlying causes. Story 5. 29. I broke up with my 30M boyfriend over his female best friend. As the title indicates, I ended my relationship with my boyfriend a few days ago due to his close friendship with a female. To provide some context, we have been together for 4 months. When we initially began dating, he mentioned that he had a female friend. Let's refer to her as Karen. He met Karen just a year ago and insists that their friendship is platonic and that they have never had feelings for each other. He claimed that when they first met, she might have had an interest in him, but as time passed, they became closer as friends, and he assures me that nothing has occurred between them. At first, I had no issues with this. He suggested that I meet her, and I was fine with that. Since she does not reside in our state, the arrangement was for her to visit, and we would meet then. No problems arose. It wasn't until a month into our relationship that I used his phone for something at an event because my phone had died. I noticed a text from her appear. He had sent her a message that read, "Missing you." In response, she sent crying emojis and hearts, saying she missed him too and couldn't wait to see him. I confronted my boyfriend about this, expressing that it was somewhat inappropriate to tell another woman that he missed her, especially accompanied by a flirty emoji. I also pointed out that they seemed to be texting more often, which made me uncomfortable. I suggested that some boundaries should be established moving forward, such as him limiting his communication with her and avoiding flirty emojis. He apologized and agreed, so we were aligned on this matter. During the holidays, my boyfriend and I took a vacation together. Throughout this time, he received several messages from Karen. He informed me about the texts, assuring me he ignored them as he was preoccupied with me. However, Karen proceeded to send him multiple messages. She also shared a throwback photo on her Instagram featuring just the two of them, and their poses in the picture gave the impression that they were a couple. I became increasingly frustrated and told my boyfriend that it seemed as though Karen was overly eager for his attention. I suggested that she might have feelings for him. He acknowledged my concerns, and I reminded him of the established boundary. I insisted that he needed to stop responding, as her messages were becoming too desperate. She even sent him a message on Instagram after he had ignored her texts, asking, "Bestie, when can I see you?" I expressed that this behavior was becoming overwhelming and making me uncomfortable. Additionally, I discovered an album she created containing photos of just the two of them from months earlier. The images appeared to depict them as a couple. He once again denied any romantic intent, reiterating that they were merely friends. I insisted that those photos suggested otherwise. He continued to refute it, but conceded that he understood my boundary and committed to avoiding her multiple messages and direct messages. Fast forward to last week. My boyfriend chose to text her unexpectedly at 11 p.m. while lying in bed next to me. He sent me screenshots of their conversation in which he casually asked how she was, and she once again requested that he visit her. Confused, I questioned him about what had happened to our boundary. I asked why he was thinking about her late at night to the point of reaching out. At that moment, I decided to end the relationship. It seems that even though he denies any emotional attachment, their friendliness raises red flags for me. Despite my concerns, he continues to argue that she is just a friend and nothing more. I feel hurt because I know that if the roles were reversed, he would not be comfortable with me having such a close friendship with a male. He has been manipulative, claiming that I am insecure and untrusting. I explained that my discomfort lies not in trust, but in her overly friendly behavior. I made it clear that I have no objections to him having female friends. My concerns are specific to Karen due to her clingy and needy demeanor. Ultimately, I told my boyfriend that I was sorry, but this friendship genuinely made me uncomfortable, and his decision to text her late at night crossed my boundary. Has anyone else experienced something similar? Any advice would be appreciated. I am heartbroken and unclear about what to do. I feel like his friend is out of line. Update. Thank you to everyone for your support and responses. I did not expect this post to gain so much attention and was anticipating more people to defend him and label me as insecure due to the gaslighting he initially inflicted. A few days have passed since the breakup, and during that time, my boyfriend has pleaded for me to return. He has shared all the messages exchanged on Instagram and through texting. While it did not alleviate my concerns, as I thought he could easily delete those messages, he acknowledged that texting her after 8 p.m. was inappropriate and admitted he would not be pleased if I were doing the same with a male friend at that hour. He expressed that he never intended to jeopardize our relationship and that if he had realized sending that message would result in our breakup, he would have refrained from doing so. He didn't grasp the seriousness of my boundary and how uncomfortable Karen's behavior made me. He has promised to discontinue the friendship, admitting that she has been excessively friendly and stating that he would not appreciate me having male friends who were as needy. I am still sorting through my feelings and considering the possibility of giving him another chance.